The movie begins by showing Japan during the Edo period. Edo period was an era of glory for the samurai. Out of the blue, these aliens called the Amanto show up, and they want to claim Japan for themselves. Until one day, the samurai united and fought against the Amanto race. They call this big showdown the Jui War. And the samurai succeeded in destroying most of the Amanto race. Seeing how strong these samurai are, the Amanto wave the white flag. They strike a deal. The samurai put away their swords, and the Amanto promise not to harm humans anymore. After this policy was agreed, the Amanto race built super advanced technology, which made the civilization in Edo, which was actually still ancient, become futuristic. Fast forward a bit, the Ronin in Japan began to lose their jobs as samurai. One of them is a Ronin named Shinpachi, who has now changed his profession as a cashier at a mini market. But the world's moved on, and because he's kinda out of touch with all the new tech, both his boss and the customers give him a hard time. When Shinpachi's having a rough time, this dude named Gintoki steps in. People call him the White Devil. Since then, Shinpachi and Gintoki hit it off, and together with a girl named Kagura, built an all-purpose service business. But business has been slow, mostly because Gintoki's kinda picky, only taking jobs if they pay a lot. One day, Kagura suggests hunting beetles in the forest, but Gintoki believes it's a childish activity that doesn't earn money. But then, he sees on TV that some beetles can sell for big bucks, so Gintoki's suddenly all in, and the trio head off to the forest to catch some cash-worthy beetles. Long story short, Gintoki, Shinpachi, and Kagura hit up the forest hoping to find some beetles. Instead, they bump into this guy Gorilla from the Shogun's police, and he's meditating and covering himself in olive oil. Then they see Toshiro, another cop, doing his own thing with some white stuff on trees. Just when they're thinking things can't get weirder, they spot this huge beetle. But it's not a beetle. It's another police guy, Sogo, in a costume trying to attract real beetles. Turns out, the Shogun's special golden beetle ran away, and now everyone's trying to catch it for a reward. Without thinking, they all competed to catch the golden beetle, so they could get a reward from the Shogun. As they're on the chase, Gintoki bumps into his buddy Katsura and a strange chicken alien thing named Elizabeth. Katsura observes Gintoki being pursued and believes the police are after him. So, he jumps in and tries to take down the police. As Gintoki's about to grab that shiny gold beetle on a bridge, a big fish monster eats it. So, no reward from the Shogun for them. Later that night, Gintoki and Katsura are just strolling and chatting about how hard it is to find work as Ronin these days. As they're saying their goodbyes, Katsura drops some news that recently there was an assassin who was massacring the Ronin at night. Hearing this, Gintoki actually looked relaxed because until now, no one could match his sword skills. As Katsura is alone on a bridge, a shady dude shows up. He was suddenly confronted by a mysterious man who claimed to be the assassin who killed the Ronin. Katsura is a bit too confident at first, but then the assassin whips out this fancy sword and slashes Katsura. The next day, the news is all about Katsura getting killed on that bridge. Elizabeth, who's super upset, cause that's her master, rushes to Gintoki for some help, but Elizabeth can't talk. Elizabeth couldn't even make a sound. Knowing that Elizabeth could not provide information, Gintoki decided to go to a blacksmith named Tetsuya and his younger sister named Tetsuko. Even though Tetsuya is an expert in making swords, the man has a weakness, namely being deaf. Gintoki even gets a bit roughed up just staying high. Still, Gintoki learns some big news from Tetsuya about the assassin and this special sword. So, Tetsuya spills that his dad once crafted this epic sword named Boni Sakura. It's got this magical pink glow in the moonlight, but no regular human can use it. That means the assassin isn't just some regular dude. Tetsuya is convinced the sword's cursed because his dad passed away a month after making it. He believes the sword's like eating souls or something. So he asks Gintoki to grab that sword back before more bad stuff goes down. One evening, Shinpachi and Elizabeth are out in the city trying to find who did in Katsura. They're chilling when some guy starts giving them grief, thinking they're up to no good. Out of nowhere, this mysterious dude stabs the guy who was just yelling at them. And it's the same dude who took out Katsura. Before they can even react, Elizabeth's down with a single hit, and Shinpachi's next on the hit list. But just in the nick of time, Gintoki swings in with his wooden sword to save them. Shinpachi then recognizes the bad guy. It's Nizo, a notorious hitman. The two of them, Gintoki and Nizo, go head to head. Even with just a wooden sword, Gintoki's holding his own against Nizo and his glowing Boni Sakura sword. Things get heated, and Gintoki ends up under a bridge. He's not one to back down, so he keeps fighting, even after his sword breaks. But it's rough, and he ends up getting a stab in the stomach. Gintoki was just about to meet his end when Shinpachi stepped in big time and chopped off Nizo's arm. Just as things were heating up, Captain Sogo and his crew showed up. Nizo, seeing he was outnumbered, decided to beat it. Once they got Gintoki patched up at the hospital, Sogo filled in the gorilla boss about the whole Nizo mess. And in the end, Gorilla decided to gather the samurai to fight Nizo. Meanwhile, Kagura and her dog pet, Sadaharu, are having a stroll around town. Kagura stumbles upon this shady-looking ship. She sends Sadaharu to give Gintoki a heads up while she does a little snooping. Once on board, she bumps into Shinsuke, just chilling with a flute. Kagura's not messing around and pulls a gun on him. But before she knows it, another person, Matako, takes a shot at her. Good thing Kagura's got moves and dodges the bullets. Things get a bit dicey for Kagura when Shinsuke's gang corners her. Among them is this veteran samurai named Takechi. They could finish her, but seeing how fierce she was, they figured they'd capture her instead. The following morning, Gintoki wakes up from his blackout to find he's being cared for by Shinpachi's big sis, Simura. While Shinpachi was out searching for Kagura, he bumped into Sadaharu on the street. Sadaharu tried to show him where Kagura was being kept on this ship, but getting inside was a no-go because of heavy samurai security. Now on this very ship, Matako and Takechi bump into Nizo, who's apparently one of their crew. Matako gives Nizo a piece of her mind because he nearly got caught by the Shogun's cops, which would have blown their entire plan. And even with Matako's warning, Nizo gets wild, showing off some freaky tentacles. On the other hand, Tetsuko somehow figures out that Gintoki is chilling with Simura. So, she pops over to drop some major news. The Boni Sakura sword created by her father apparently has an automatic system with electromagnetic waves and also artificial intelligence. The sword's also kinda creepy. It's a parasite that takes over whoever uses it and can learn from fights to get the upper hand next time. Tetsuko spills that her brother Tetsuya was working on the down low with Shinsuke, making copies of this weird sword, which Shinsuke would later use to destroy Edo's glory days. Gintoki realizes he's got a tough fight ahead. He zips over to Mr. Goku to get some serious gear to take on that Boni Sakura sword. At that moment, Gintoki saw a combat robot made by Mr. Goku and immediately wants to use the robot to defeat Boni Sakura. Unfortunately, Mr. Goku refuses, because the robot belongs to an official of the Shogun's government. With no robot in hand, Gintoki decides to catch up with Tetsuko for help. Over on the ship, things are getting intense. Shinsuke's crew is about to execute Kagura. Just then, Shinpachi rolls in trying to be the hero and save Kagura. But he's alone and clearly freaking out because he's surrounded. Just as Matako is about to blast Shinpachi, out of nowhere, a police ship led by Gorilla starts shooting at them. Realizing this, they immediately flew away from the dock, while Shinpachi took the opportunity to free Kagura. However, the police ship is right on the tail of Shinsuke's ship and starts attacking. Gorilla is all pumped up, ready to take on the bad guys. But in a total facepalm moment, when he tries to jump on Shinsuke's ship, he lands in the water instead. Meanwhile, Gintoki rolls up to the dock with Tetsuko. She hands him this special sword she made just for him. Then Mr. Goku shows up with a cool jet for Gintoki to fly straight to Shinsuke's ship. On Shinsuke's ship, Captain Toshiro and Sogo are trying their best to beat Nizo using some big explosions, but turns out Nizo doesn't even flinch. Kagura and Shinpachi stumble upon a lab with a bunch of those creepy Boni Sakura sword copies, and just when Shinsuke is about to attack them, Elizabeth steps in. And when Shinsuke slashed Elizabeth, Katsura appeared from inside the costume, who turned out to be still alive. Back to the big ship showdown. Toshiro tries to tackle Nizo, but just can't keep up. Just in the nick of time, Gintoki zooms in, ready for a rematch with Nizo. With Tetsuko's special sword in hand, Gintoki goes all out on Nizo. He even manages to hurt Nizo's face and get him to accidentally stab himself. While that's happening, Matako's trying to help her buddy Shinsuke by taking shots at Kagura. But Kagura dodges all the bullets and even catches some in midair. Nizo then falls from the roof, and it seems like Boni Sakura has taken over him. Everyone realizes they need to team up to stand a chance against Boni Sakura. They give it their best shot. Just when Boni Sakura is about to go after Tetsuko, Tetsuya steps in to save her and gets hurt in the process. Gintoki takes a moment to remind Tetsuya that Tetsuko's sword is all about protection. He then taking down Boni Sakura with that same sword. With Tetsuya gone and the day seemingly saved, Gintoki tells Toshiro and Sogo to get their friends out of there, leaving him to face off with Shinsuke. On the ship, Katsura tries to convince Shinsuke to abandon his plan to destroy the Edo government. Unexpectedly, Shinsuke is actually in the same clan as Katsura and Gintoki. But after a war, Shinsuke wasn't cool with some policies and wanted to toss out the samurai and crash the government. Even wilder, Katsura gets nabbed by the Amana race. Shinsuke, who previously claimed to hate the Amana race, actually collaborated with the Amana race to get rid of the samurai. That way, the Amana race could control Japan freely. Not long after, Gintoki came and challenged Shinsuke to a fight. It's an epic clash, but Gintoki pulls out a win. He doesn't finish off Shinsuke though, because after all, Shinsuke was his friend. When Shinsuke's ship began to disintegrate, Katsura immediately dragged Gintoki out of the ship and jumped using Elizabeth's parachute. Meanwhile, Shinsuke was taken away by plane by Matako and Takechi. The story wraps with Gintoki and Katsura back with their crew. Moral lesson from the story is teal friends stick together, no matter how crazy things get. Sometimes, you gotta make tough calls for your buddies.